For AMC 10A, problems 7. The product of three integers is 60. What is the least possible positive sum of the three integers? Why some students get stuck on this question or get a wrong answer because of one part of this statement. And that is actually an important check. I want to make sure you always do when you solve this kind of questions. So important check for integers means if you get a question, they're saying, hey, all of them are integers, there's an important check, which is positive or either. Yes. What do I mean? Whenever you see integer, naturally, especially if the question is a number theory question, naturally we might be like, okay, yeah, those are all positive integers. That's not always the case. So when you read a question, if you find this question is about integers, always do this check. Do they have to be all positives or either positive or negative is fine. This is a question where they're saying the product of three integers is 60. So there's no positive, which means positive or negative are fine. And that is very important because think about this. You need three numbers timed together, A, B, C, to be equal to 60. You need their sum to be as small as possible, even though you still need it to be positive. And in that sense, to make the sum small, you would need some negative numbers. And for the product to still be positive 60, you need one positive, which you can see A is positive, B is negative, and C is negative. The reason is because you want the sum to be small, and a negative number helps reduce the sum. All right, now let's see how to make it work. Generally, you try to factorize 60. So you'll find 60 is equal to 2 squared times 3 times 5. So we can start from some try and error stuff. For example, we can try 5, -3, -2. The product is -4. The product is 60. My apologies, this is -4. So the product is 60, but the problem is when you add them up, you get -2. This is close, right? Because you want to find the least positive sum. So you actually want the sum to be close to 0, but still be positive. But the only problem is, seems to be a little bit too much, which means you want the positive one to be a little bit bigger, and you want the negative one to be a little bit smaller. And what you could do is, I can give a 2 to the positive number. So what I can do is 10, -3, and -2. And if you do that, you would get 5. So this time the sum is positive, but the question becomes, can I make it even smaller? And by looking at this, A equal to 10 generally makes sense. Because if A is smaller than that, you get a 5. It's not going to be able to make the total sum to be positive. You might have another choice, which is, what about 6? Well, we can try it. If A is 6, Then the remaining two is like -5 and -2, still negative. So A needs to be 10 or more. What can you do about the 3 and 2 then? Is there any way to make that sum even smaller? Well, one choice is, what about 10 minus 6 and minus 1? That does reduce it even further. That's 3. And then you play with this number, you'll be able to see there's no other way for us to make it work. Because any other method, if you increase A further, firstly, if A is 10, then B and C can only be 3, 2, or 6, 1. And if you make A even bigger, this whole thing will be having a larger sum, which will be even worse. So the answer is B, 3. If you notice that it could be positive or negative, generally by trial and error, you'll be able to find it. The only thing here is people get stuck because they didn't notice 3 integers means it could be positive or negative. So always have this important check for integer related questions.